Warriors of the Imperium, tomorrow will be our day of days, for we shall have rejoined the Emperor in the glory at the golden throne. Tonight is our night of nights, for it is now, in these very moments, that we earn the glory that will carry us to the throne. Commissar Sebastian Yarrick at the Battle of Armageddon. Reading from Yarrick the Omnibus, published by Games Workshop 2018. So hello everyone. Today's lore video is going to be about the most well-known characters in the Astra Militarum story, the political officers of the elite officio prefectus, the commissars. Known mostly for their ruthless enforcement of battlefield discipline and courage, there is actually an extensive story behind these seemingly stone-cold killers. A bit about my channel, I cover everything Astra Militarum, including hobby, tactics and lore, so please subscribe for more. An individual's journey to become a commissar typically begins with a personal story of tragedy. The Schola Progenium serves as an orphanage for the children of dead officers and nobles of the Imperium. It is responsible for their upbringing, education and training, with successful candidates going on to serve in a wide array of imperial roles. They will go on to serve in the Administorum, Adeptus Terra, the Administratum, the Ecclesiarchy, the Elite Tempestus Scions, Adeptus Arbites, or daughters will go into the Adeptus Sororitas. All of these end positions are considered equally important for the running of the Imperium, but only the best will go on to serve in the Commissariat, and only the absolute finest inducted directly into the Inquisition. So the childhood years of a commissar are ones of prayer, fasting, curriculum, physical endurance and weapons training, something their fellow orphans all experience together. A commissar cadet is however selected to join the Commissariat based on them displaying not only strong natural combat ability, but also an ability to carry out orders under severe adversity. During the trials of compliance, potential commissars may partake in stressful live-fire exercises filled with hallucinations, and midway through be ordered to execute a close classmate for a shot in the head. Now such a draconian approach may seem barbaric. The thought of teenagers conducting live-fire exercises and being told to execute one another clearly is quite challenging to understand in today's modern world. However, given some of the enemies in man that these teenage recruits will go on to fight and lead the soldiers of Astra Militarum, this display of unquestioning obedience is completely justified. So once graduating at the top of their class, a cadet commissar will go on to join an Astra Militarum regiment and be assigned a commissar mentor. At this point they'll actually serve alongside the men and women of the regiment. Here they'll learn the ins and outs of soldiering, picking up on things that can only be learnt from time in the field, not read in a classroom manual. The soldiers these cadets serve with will usually welcome the youngster with open arms. Some more superstitious types may even see them as a blessing from the Holy Emperor himself. But most are just happy to have a physically gifted teenager amongst them who is happy to take point on patrol or be the first over the top. Given the selection process at the Schola Progenium, these cadets will typically excel at this point, easily developing their combat proficiencies and absorbing the knowledge required to one day potentially drill new recruits or retrain troops who have become lacking in ability and require retraining. So once displaying the merits required to satisfying their mentor commissar, the cadet will earn the rank of junior commissar. Now remember that they may still be in their late teens, so essentially still a child, and the task ahead of this young man or woman is monstrous. Not only do they have to be a skilled warrior, but also be able to pass judgment on other soldiers as to whether they're performing their duties as the Emperor would expect. Now the authority of a commissar knows no bound. They have authority through all aspects of the regiment they are assigned to. For a soldier of the Imperium to perform their duties correctly, their behaviour not only on the battlefield but also off must be to standard. It is a commissar's duty to ensure that the squad sergeants and platoon commanders are enforcing everyday discipline on their troops. Weapons and equipment need to be maintained and their use practiced. Troops must be drilled and exercised, and squad leaders must conduct mock battles to hone their tactical planning. So for the junior commissar, their combat experience as a cadet is vital. You can imagine the disgust of a grizzled Catachan veteran being scolded by a junior commissar for breaking protocol in a minor everyday procedure. It is in these everyday occurrences that a commissar will learn the subtle art of influence. Does one influence through fear, or influence through more subtle means? Do they run everything by the book? Or do they let minor infractions pass, as long as the mission and orders are effectively achieved. So it is here that only the best graduates of the Schola Progenium become commissars. The commissar has to be exceptionally intelligent to be able to effectively discipline and inspire the troops in their command. To effectively lead and manage people is perhaps one of the most demanding mental tasks one can do. It would be easy for the junior commissar to cruelly punish the cadet and veteran, but their career might be short-lived. Overly enthusiastic commissars are known to die suddenly or simply disappear on patrol, with all troops claiming ignorance as to the cause of death. So as the junior commissar matures and grows into their black trench coat and iconic pleat cap, they'll have learnt to pick out what is acceptable and what needs punishment. They may be assigned to a new regiment as a fresh pair of eyes to revitalise a bored regiment, or ensure that a veteran one isn't running things too differently to what is officially mandated. It's this second task that is key to the success of the Astra Militarum. Given the Astra Militarum encompasses billions of souls across the galaxy, keeping the uniformity across every single regiment, company, platoon and squad would be impossible. The commissars, however, are the needle and thread that holds it all together. An interesting case of this being done is in the Death Corps of Krieg. These VAT-born, military conditioned from birth soldiers know nothing other than war. Discipline and courage are never a problem, but their acceptance of vomit-inducing casualties certainly is. A commissar assigned to a Krieg regiment may actually spend a lot of their time trying to persuade his officers against pouring thousands of troops onto an enemy they have little chance of defeating. It's bizarre to think that a commissar may actually not want their troops to die on the battlefield. See, a commissar's key intent is to ensure the morale of their troops is preserved and their duty is fulfilled to the standard the Emperor expects. Death by the thousands may actually prevent their soldiers from achieving this. But again, the Death Corps of Krieg are a pretty unique bunch. So another area that a commissar has complete control over is the government and local authorities of whichever planetary system they happen to be in. This could manifest itself in the requisitioning by force of food and provisions from local business, or the execution of an incompetent or unwilling local official. All imperial citizens know the distinctive commissariat hat, reading about them in propaganda, and during times of war, a commissar could mobilise an entire population, arm them, turn them into the most untrained of conscripts, using them to simply delay the enemy through sheer weight of human bodies. So this is where the political aspect of a commissar's role comes into play. While they have the complete authority over all aspects of war, and have the ability to execute anybody with good reason, they can't just execute everybody into compliance. They play a vital role in subduing a population with stories of heroics and bravery, delivering inspiring speeches, as per Commissar Yarrick in the short reading at the beginning of the video. They'll also play a role in wining and dining society's elite of the planet they are deployed to, winning over sometimes stubborn government officials or commercial leaders whose resource could greatly help the war effort. Now, depending on the individual, they may view wining and dining as an unnecessary chore which could be easier achieved via a bolt pistol. Or of course, they may relish in the opportunity to indulge in fine food and a second company, a welcome change from the life in the barracks with its bare basic accommodation and mess facilities. This of course will be down to personal preference, and much like how they execute their duties, a commissar has a choice as to how they will live their life in service of the Emperor. Perhaps the most famous of all commissars is of course Commissar Sebastian Yarrick. He chose to live his life as one of heroic inspiration, forging a name for himself at the Battle of Armageddon, challenging Orc war boss Ugelhard in a hand-to-hand duel, losing his right arm and taking the dead Orc's power claw. What a badass. Another fine example of a heroic leader is Commissar Gaunt. He is unique in that he had command of the Tanith regiments, being known as Gaunt's Ghost. This is something not normally done, as commissars sit outside of the traditional chain of command of the Astra Militarum. Ibram Gaunt gained the trust of his regiments through numerous battles, displaying great individual courage during the Sabbath World's Crusade. We can't forget Commissar Cassius Cain, who worked extensively with the Valhallans. He was the first to admit privately that his sole focus was simply keeping himself alive and out of danger. This typically meant, however, that he was usually ending up in incredibly dangerous situations, often because he had to maintain his heroic reputation that inspired his Valhallan troops. He was a master of basic psychology, developing his popularity with his troops, who would fight bravely to protect their commissar. Now these three heroes are unique in their approach. The more traditional approach would be the well-known draconian approach to discipline. Execution is a common method, with a bolt pistol shot to the skull being most common. Some more brutally creative commissars would use hideous methods like strapping an offending guardsman to the barrel of a basilisk, firing the cannon and turning the trooper's body into scattered remains. Some, like Commissar Reeve, who served with the Brimlock 11th, labelled his trench coat with little metal skulls to represent all those he had executed, taking pride in the fact that his coat became quite weighty with all the metal sewn into it. At the Battle of Cadia, 59 Cadians were executed as they withdrew under orders to an extraction point. Commissar Grake individually shot dead soldiers as they came in, having lost their weapons during the withdrawal from the forces of chaos. It turns out the majority of them were wounded, including one who had lost her lower leg. When challenged by General Gruber about this, Grake justified his actions by saying that the execution of these 59 troops prevented the remaining 10,000 evacuating troops from breaking into panic. Now there's no evidence of mass panic being a risk. In actuality, the Cadians withdrew in good order. This example, however, illustrates just how firmly some commissars would stamp out ill discipline in the ranks. Now it's events like this that develop the bad reputation of the Commissariat amongst the men and women of the Astra Militarum. Seemingly good soldiers could be punished for things that any other soldier would view as justifiable in the circumstances. Don't forget that officers of all levels are not immune to the critical eye of a commissariat either. What could be viewed as a tactical retreat from an overwhelming enemy could be seen as cowardice by the commissariat, with the officer in command executed. The traditional Imperial Guard story of pouring millions of troops onto the enemy, suffering devastating losses in the process, takes root from the commissars embedded in each regiment. We shouldn't however forget that in the 40th millennium, mankind is facing all kinds of horrors like nothing we've ever seen in human existence so far. People like you and I could be hastily trained up, fitted out with uniform and lasgun, and a few months later find ourselves sitting in a trench waiting for an enemy charge. What may emerge out of the fog could be monstrosities from our darkest nightmares. The absolute terror experienced would be completely understandable, and likewise the prospect of fleeing in terror. But if knowing that to do so would mean execution, means that the commissar in your regiment has contributed to the good of the Imperium by ensuring that every single possible lasgun is facing the enemy, albeit held by a trembling, sweaty, petrified guardsman. Right, so there you have it. A bit about the lore of the Astra Militarum commissars. Hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments any other aspects of this story which you find particularly interesting. I've done several other Astra Militarum lore videos, and at the end there's a link to a video playlist if you want to check out more of these videos. If you'd like to support my channel, feel free to like, comment and subscribe, or if you're feeling super generous you can support me on Patreon. I've got a link below. So yeah, my channel covers everything Astra Militarum, including hobby, tactics and lore. Thanks for watching, see you next time.